Thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that backgrounder. We have with us in the studios for this conversation two former members of the National Assembly. First, let's welcome Senator Ita Enang. Senator Ita Enang spent 12 years in the House of Reps and one term in the Senate. He is also a former senior special assistant to the President on the National Assembly Senate matters. Distinguished Senator, we're glad to have you back on Good Morning Nigeria after the field war for the governorship of Akwa Ibom. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much and good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you. Also here with us in the studios is a former member of the House of Representatives. He was there in 2003 up until 2007 representing Basa and Jos North Federal Constituency. Honorable Shehu Saleh Hassan. Glad to have you this morning.
Thank you to have me. Good to be with you, Kingsley and Kyria. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, you're welcome indeed. And joining us via Zoom, we have Awal Musa Rafsanjani, Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you and good morning, Nigerian.
All right. So, gentlemen, once again, we're glad to have you. Somewhat a bit early in the day, some might say, in terms of the race for the leadership of the 10th National Assembly, because since last month, particularly with the outcome of most of the legislative seats being known following the February 25th National Assembly and presidential elections, there's been talk about not just the composition of the National Assembly, but the leadership also of the National Assembly, which was at that time 3 months away. I might now say round about 2 months ahead. So there's a lot of talk about this for the benefit of our viewers and for you gentlemen who have also been through the crucible, as it were. Is this business unusual?
Well, it is business as usual. Now, I think it's not too early for the aspirants, but it is time for the principals to go inside the closet and start arranging the house so that they will not have the incidents of the accident of 2015. It's not too early.
Okay, all right. Let's hear from you, Shehu.
Yes, I think I would agree with my very good friend. When he came in, I called him by the name that we called him in the 5th Assembly then. We used to call him the author of rules and business. Yes. He was one of the most important members of the House of Reps. He was in charge of rules. And I would want to agree with him. It's actually even too late, considering global standard practices. In other democracies, strong democracies, mature democracies, the principal officers are mostly known before they are confirmed by their members. Take, for instance, as soon as the midterm elections of the United States were done and the Republicans took over the House of Representatives, everyone knew that the destined or the person that was supposed to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives was McCarthy because of the ranking. He was the natural successor to Pelosi.
Pelosi, yeah.
But he had to go through what he went through because there was a lot of rebellion within the Republican Party. But he eventually emerged. But he was long, as soon as Americans knew that Republicans had taken House of Representatives, it was deemed a done deal for McCarthy to become. He was expected to become, and that's how it is. Actually, even in our legislature.
No, but that doesn't play out in Nigeria here. I mean, because of why I'm saying this is that we have all recalled what happened in 2015.
Yes.
Where there was an ambush and all that. But in the current situation now, Senator Nang did say that, look, it's not too early to do that. But you said that, immediately the election was over in the U.S., there was this, somebody was inclined to becoming the Speaker because of the ranking. And for this, I want to bring in Musa Rafsanjani. What's your take, on the current situation now that's jostling, not just within the APC, of course, who has the greater number of members in the two chambers, but the other parties, that also emerged. What is it to you, and what are you expecting, after this jostling and horse trading?
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians. What is going on in the National Assembly principal officers struggle for leadership, in my opinion, is part of the general, or larger problems of leadership in Nigeria. Leadership recruitment, in the sense that by virtue of the fact that we are having a constitutional democracy, we are running a political party system. It is expected that the emergence of leaders should have, at least in each of the political parties, been thoroughly debated, democratically discussed, and agreed on who should pit the positions. Now, once at the party level, you have discussed and agreed democratically, not the imposition of a particular arm of the executive, I think, you will have reduced the tension and the total commercialization of the struggle for leadership in the National Assembly principal officers. As it is now, today, it is not the character and the quality that is needed for a principal officer that is being played out today. It is how much connection you have, probably, with either the president-elect or with some few powerful people, not looking at your own, experience, capacity, track record, non-corruptible character, and even your sense of gender balancing. Those are not what, unfortunately, is being put on the table. What is being put on the table now, apparently it appears that how much money can you share to give to members to get you elected? And I think it's very dangerous. If you commercialize leadership position in Nigeria, just like we've seen during the election, how use of money, was also used right from the party primary election to the election level, then you will be mortgaging the interest of the people. So if you have to pay huge millions to become a principal officer in the National Assembly, come to think of it, what interest of the people will you actually have? Because the whole thing will be like, okay, I paid for this amount, I have to use every available means to recover the money. And I think we lost it in that direction. So for me, what is happening now, it is not what should be happening. We should have been able to, as a political party, be able to discuss thoroughly, debated, and have consensus among each of the political party on the kind of people that we need to have, they need to have, for example, in their parties, coming to contest election in the National Assembly as principal officers or as leaders or as whatever, it should be. Especially in this election where you have the emergence of other political parties with a large number of members. So it should be a kind of dialogue, negotiation based on certain criteria which each party can bring in to say, okay, we are bringing this, and even the issue of zoning would have been, reflected, because it is zoning, it is a political party affairs. So party that has a zoning arrangement.
Well, Rafsanjani, thank you very much there for your opening comments. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Now back to the studios. Senator Itai Nag, before we begin to crunch the issues that are relevant to the choice of leaders of the National Assembly, I think it's important for us also have to examine the plural membership, as it were, of the 10th National Assembly to be inaugurated, convened in June this year. A number of political parties have emerged, and it's not as if in the past we'll be talking about two main parties, so, APC or PDP and APC. So what is the outlook like in terms of legislative business, and therefore also the choice of leaders, because that will be the first legislative business, I imagine.
Yeah. Let me first let me first disagree with Rafsanjani that there is a question of money, how much money you have. It is not. It is how many votes you are likely to have, and what is the clout of your political party in the election, and what is your personal clout in this matter, and the extent to which the opposition parties are able to come together to fight like they did in 2015 and they again attempted in 2019. But the plural nature of the composition, I wouldn't call it just the plural nature only, the peculiar nature. Peculiar in terms of the fact that this is one election which has seen the highest number of casualties among the current members not returning to the floor. And so it's going to give a different character to the elections, because what the candidates are prone to do now is to run after the new members who may not have been committed one way or the other, irrespective of political parties. And I would have thought that it would have been possible for the opposition parties to pull a stunt. But it's not likely, because I do not see Labour going into arrangement agreement with PDP because of the poles apart nature of their philosophy. Labour will want, and I presume, to stand and make its own points known, whether they lose or fail, where they want to. Now, so PDP is not likely to be able to pull the fight, as it were. Then NNPP and YPP and one other party are not strong enough to be able to do any other thing. And so it is almost like an APC affair. But the being APC affair, it can be an APC affair, and then APC loses control. And so the members of the APC in the Senate and House takes the lead and do what they want to do, so that they will not be called rubber stamp, But I want to urge that we should adopt the strategy we did in 2015. In 2015, I was the presidential liaison to the National Assembly. His Excellency Adams Oshomole was the national chairman of the APC. And we had a semblance of what was likely to happen with the same personnel, senators-elect, with the same senators who were party to the 2015 accident and incident, playing a lead role. And there is always somebody to use within the party, as it were. They came into an alliance. The person that APC wanted in 2015 was Lawan, but there was that incident where they went to the International Conference Center while the proclamation of the president said National Assembly, and it said 10 o'clock. And I think it was the APC had the misfortune of just being coming in then. And most of the leaders of APC were state governors then. And so they wanted to take the strategy they normally apply in the State House of Assembly, when they can inaugurate the House by 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. because Oga has not spoken. That is the governor. Anytime he wants, he calls them whenever they have finished and say, here. And the National Assembly didn't operate and will never operate like that. So the president had issued a proclamation and said 10 o'clock at the National Assembly. And at 10 o'clock, the clerk who is in charge had moved in, while the other people were in the International Conference Center consulting with leaders of the party, while those who had the coup plan, permit me to use the word advisedly, had the were in the chambers, and when it was time, they started, irrespective of the fact that they had no quorum at that time. They started and they voted, and before the other people came, roadblock and all that, the people had started acquiring their numbers, and they moved from their scene. So what we did was, myself, His Excellency Adams Oshomole as chairman of the party, and me as presidential liaison in the Senate, and my brother El Yakub in the House of Representatives, is now Minister of State for Works and Housing. So we had an agreement. We operated mostly from the chairman's office, the other office at Udi Street. And we had all the governors working with us. The Bagudu, I think he was chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, and we ensured that all the governors were in touch and personally, quote unquote, I wouldn't use a strong word, were in touch with their senators, and perhaps ensure that you at least came with them, at least leg by leg. I mean, what we call in my language, ikpat, that is, when I remove leg, you put, So we came to the floor because we saw the level of mobilization that PDP did. And the PDP was doing the job of an opposition, whose job is to always challenge the ruling party. They had gone into an alliance with Ndume to produce Ndume as Senate President and produce Ekweremadu as His Excellency Senator Ekweremadu as Deputy Senate President. And APC has had its zoning, allowing since the president is from Northwest, the Senate President should go to Northeast, and other positions were zoned. So it was zoned to Northeast. So it was easy for the contest to be between Lawan and Ekweremadu. But we had so much because PDP had so many senators at that time, unlike now. That is why I say their strength has been deflated. They had so many senators. And then they had they had aggrieved members, they had other members that is senators, who were also lobbying to take either the principal officer's position or some important committee positions on the other side. And so we had a big fight, on the floor. And so we had to bring in the governors to even sit on the floor. Unfortunately for us, the accident of 2015 also produced a contamination, quote unquote, of the standing orders of the House. Within the short period of our leaving the House, leaving the Senate, about 3-4 days, there was a change in the standing orders by the clerk. By persons who ought to be in charge. In fact, I was myself and the legislature, of being the people who changed the standing orders. So all this played out, and we had to fight and ensure that we won, as it were. So we succeeded with strenuous effort in ensuring that the person the party needed was Lawan, and he made it we won, and we also made sure that the present deputy president of the Senate, also won against Ekweremadu. So it is time for the party to come together so that they do not allow the field to remain too wide and too open, so that they will not have a big problem. Not the PDP coming in, but the leadership emerging out of against the run of play.
Okay, well said. We are here. We all witnessed what happened in 2015 and 2019, right? And even way back before then at the National Assembly. Recall that we had. You're going to come in. You recall we had a certain Patishete, right? Who was backed, up by the presidency at the time, right? And she came on board, and that gave birth, to Integrity Group that later brought her down. And what have you. So we are in tune with what happens in the place. And you don't rule out totally, what Rafsanjani had said with respect to money exchanging hands. As I'm speaking to you now, some of the members of the LP and other YPP and other smaller parties who are in National Assembly are being consulted. And money is talking as well. You know, I mean, there are no two ways about it, because some of us also have friends who are in politics and know what is happening. So Rafsanjani made a valid point here. But
Is it trickling down to you?
how can you get to? I'm not a member. I'm not a politician. But you know, as a journalist, you investigate, you find out, you ask questions. Well, these politicians they're not good. They are friends of people, you know, and they live in the society. So now we're talking about Jocelyn. We're talking about trying to ensure that the ruling party, which has the majority in the National Assembly, will produce the key positions, especially the Senate President, of course, House of Representatives. But they also need other parties to vote for them. And so on, because the party does not have a two-thirds majority in the House. Although they don't require that, you know, for this very election now that will come in the National Assembly, it requires a simple majority to do that. So, what's your take on what Rafsanjani said with respect to money speaking as well, plus what Dr. Itayenang has also said?
You see, before I comment on that, I would like to agree with with the distinguished senator in disagreeing with Rafsanjani. As sensational as it sounds, the distinguished senator has aptly described the politics or the nature of the legislature. Thankfully, I have been involved since 2003 in the emergence of leadership, particularly the presiding officers. The emergence of Masari played a key role. The emergence of Adimeji Bankole played a key role. The emergence of Dogara played a key role. Of course, I was on the other side. The distinguished senator was on the other side. In 2019, I played a major role in the emergence of my friend, my brother, Femi Gbajabiamila. So I understand the politics of the emergence of leadership. It is as much a political issue as it is an art. And because of the peculiarity of the legislature, you do not assess the emergence of the leadership of the legislature in the same standards as that of the executive. The Constitution envisages this and provides that the legislature, the National Assembly, shall choose among themselves the leadership, which means, and that's why I even disagree even more with Rafsanjani. It's absolutely democratic. And as the distinguished senator has said, it depends, one, the standing order of the Senate, as well as the House of Representatives, particularly the Senate, the 2011 standing orders, as amended, is very, very emphasizes on Section 3. Section 2, 1 emphasizes on ranking, how the Senate President and the Deputy, the two presiding officers, how they emerge, is ranking. And then subsection 2B defines what a ranking is. It gives preference, or it ranks a returning senator first. You have to be. So which means it is a requirement of the rule of the Senate that a presiding officer that will emerge as the Senate President and the Deputy must have been a returning senator. And then if there isn't a returning senator, then who has been a member of the House of Representatives and now in the Senate. And in the absence of those two, you now consider the, it's not derogatory. No, it doesn't. The Senate rule does not bring the House of Assembly. The House of Reps, which means ranking is based on the membership of the National Assembly. And then it considers those that are new. In the US, they would call them newbies. Here, if you call a senator a newbie, he takes it as a derogatory. It isn't a derogatory. And let me also...
There was a problem where somebody was called a Jambite.
Exactly.
In 2003.
Yes.
And the person lost.
Yes.
Because they called the just elected members in 2003. They called them Jambite.
Yes.
They called them Jambite. And
the issue of ranking is really important. Exactly, a Jambite senator or a Jambite member. If I may quickly say that the not interference, but the involvement of the executive, particularly the president, is not only necessary, but it is expected. Even in grown democracies such as the United States, the president is in fact interested on who becomes. They are more interested in following the rules and the standards that had been previously set. As I said earlier, McCarthy became because of his ranking.
But in
Mitch
America,
McConnell became the leader of the Senate because of his ranking. Because he was the leader of the Senate. But because they had maintained majority in the Senate, he was naturally expected to emerge the leader of the Senate, and he did. So, listen, I think Rafsanjani, I know him very well. He is really good. He's doing a very good job as a civil society, as an advocate, and as an activist. But I think to say that money plays a significant role shows some level of, not really ignorance, but lack of knowledge of what exactly the rules of the legislature is.
Okay, Honorable Shehu Hassan, thanks a lot. Before we go back to Rafsanjani, and the purpose of going back to him would not be to elaborate or disprove or disagree or reinforce the claims about what is exchanging hands. Just, again, to understand the processes. You touched on something significant, and I would like Senator Itai to respond to this. Yes, the ground rules for the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly, those ground rules can be found first in the Constitution and then in the standing orders made by the respective chambers. But tell us something. Honorable Hassan appears to justify the intrusion of the executive branch in the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly. But some persons would also argue that it should rather be the duty of the party caucus, that is the national caucus of the party, of which the executive is a member.
Yes.
So why are we having miasma, as it were, of interferences and lack of clarity as to how to go?
I think I don't call it interference.
Yes.
I call it political responsibility. Because if the president or the executive or the governor is not interested, then he is not politically active, he's not politically responsive. Not responsive, it's not politically responsive. And he is normally the chairman or is a member of the caucus. And the caucus of the party is made up of the national chairman, members of the working committee, trustees, and so on. First, they will come together and say, look, this is where the offices should go to. And when they say this is the zone it should go to, sometimes not a state it should go to, then it will, after that, like our party, as it is now, or as it were, you had the president from the Northwest, you have to have the vice presidents from the Southwest. So these two zones, ordinarily, although there was the Femi Gbajabiamila factor and the number of people that you had in APC from these zones, and the party that was on the other side, there may have been not ranking persons and enough vote to make sure you win, you know. Now, executive will have to come in together with the party. Like I gave the incidents of 2019, where the executive, I and a few, and some trustees, some leaders, the secretary to government was involved, the chief of staff, and on the executive end, and the party led by Adams Shomole, and then the governors forum, you know, led by Bagudu. We formed the trio, and then all other governors were involved. When it became tough, it wasn't a question of leadership of each of it became a question of every person being involved, you know. Now, because Amogege's election became a very tough one because of the Ekweremadu factor and the strength that the other senator from Borno had, Ndume, you know. So, and that they were in alliance on this line, while it was Lawan and Omogege on this line. So we had to, in fact, on the floor, I must confess, in the floor, we were really threatened in the course of the election. We were all on the floor, you know, because it was secret ballot. Now, so the executive doesn't have to be directly involved, but they have to be party involved. They have to be definitely involved, you know, because one, you must maintain that there is balance of offices all over the country. There are 6 principal offices in the country. Number 1 is president, vice president, senate president, senate president, speaker, then deputy senate president, deputy speaker. These 6 offices must go round the 6 geopolitical zones first. The Chief Justice of the Federation comes in there, but he's not part of the things to be considered.
He's not elected.
He's not elected. So you must make sure that when you zone a thing to a place, you defend it going to that place. So this is what the party should do now, you know, and do that early, so that there are members who will want to follow what the party wants. One, so that they can maintain and have a good accommodation. I don't want to get into the details after the election and the constitutional principle. And of course, they also have to be rated by the party in terms of considering you for a return. When you are seeking for the ticket of the party, they will say, did you play on our lines? This is the issue. Please let me go to the question of this ranking that he's talked about. Please, just I'll be very brief about
proceed.
it.
I mean, it's significant in terms of
now,
the
on the question of who becomes the principal officer of the Senate and the House, particularly the Senate President and the Deputy Senate President, it must come from amongst the ranking members. And the ranking members are first, please let me just read that provision as it is. On is Order 3 of the Standing Orders, election of presiding and other officers, Order 3, Rule 2. It says, nomination of senators to serve as presiding officers and appointment of principal officers and other officers of the Senate or on any parliamentary delegation shall be in accordance with ranking of senators. In determining ranking, the following order shall apply. 1. Senators returning based on the number of times re-elected. Based on the number of times re-elected.
Very important.
Then second is senators who had been members of the House of Representatives. Then last follows senators elected as senators for the first time.
Yes.
Now, this also has an issue. It is, if you have been a senator in 2015 to 2019, or 2011 to 2015, or 2007 to 2011, you will be considered as a returning senator. But you cannot take precedence over a senator who is just immediately graduating from the parliament, from the Senate just dissolved. That is a serving senator now, contending. Any other one coming from outside, whether you were a senator and then you went to contest to become a governor, you become a contest and you return, you lose your precedence.
You do. You
lose your precedence.
You lose it.
You are not
Absolutely.
in that ranking of, you are not in that particular peculiar ranking.
Because there's been an
interregnum.
Interregnum.
Yes, exactly.
So these are the questions. And in fact, there is another issue that is involved, because the question of 2015, which threw up a big issue of amendment of the standing orders, led to amendment of the 5th alteration number 8 of the Constitution, which was sent to some weeks ago by Mr. President. The amendment of the standing orders. It says in section 311 of the principle that is altered by A, substituting for section 2 to subsections 2 to subsection 5, new subsections 2 to new subsection 5. 1. The standing orders of the Senate in existence before its dissolution under section 64 of this Constitution shall apply in relation to the proceedings of the first session of the Senate convened by the President under section 64 of the Constitution. 2. The standing orders of the House of Representatives in existence before its dissolution under section 4 of this Constitution shall apply in relation to proceedings of the first session of the House of Representatives convened by the President under section 64 of this Constitution. The rationale of this is what happened in 2015. Because in 2015, I'll just be very brief.
That is a very significant.
Yes.
Let me be.
Yes.
Because the point you're trying to make is that, I'm sorry, Internet, what you are trying to say, let's break it down for our viewers, is that the rules
Yes.
governing the operations or proceedings of
Yes.
the Senate
Yes.
and the House of Reps at the time of their dissolution cannot be altered for
Yes.
the first business of
Yes.
the 10th Assembly, for instance.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it cannot
That's
be
right.
it cannot be
So you're
altered.
going to give us a historical
Yeah.
background again.
Now, in the historical background of this was that in 2015, I chaired the Rules of Business Committee of the Senate in 2015 to 2011 to 2015. 2015 to 2019, 2020, I was advisor on National Assembly. Now, when we dissolved, I think around the 9th or 8th of June, upon the proclamation of President Buhari, there was that interregnum. That interregnum, there was a change in the standing orders. And that change was not done by us. The Senate President, David Mark, was not aware. The Senate leader, Senator Victor Ndomaigwa, was not aware. I, Senator Itana, as chairman of Rules and Business, was not aware and were not party to it. In fact, in the course of the investigation, the police came to me. I wasn't arrested, but I had to make a statement to the police. And I made a statement under caution as a person that is supposed to be charged for fraudulently altering the standing orders. Because they altered the standing orders to insert a provision saying that it must be by secret ballot. And previously, it used to be that when they call your name, you stand up and say, I, Ita Enang, I vote for Senator David Mark. So they know where each person voted. But within that period, it was a serious issue, I'm sure everybody
Of course
remembers.
it was.
So there was issue of the clerk. Who did it? Was it David Mark wasn't very actually pursued. It was, in fact, I was the main principal person pursued because part of it was my beat. So they inserted this provision. And when you look at that provision, you will see even in the manner of the print, the character of the print that is different from every other print in the standing orders.
It was an amendment.
Yes. So the Senate standing orders in 2022 is to be incorporated actually. So it says voting by secret ballot, which shall be conducted by the clerk at table using the list of senators elect. But it has been incorporated as this thing now. But all I want to say is that this process, has to be very serious, that it had to lead to amendment of the Constitution to include, so that you don't have a situation where immediately after the House is
sorry, no, you come in again.
I'm sorry
The Rafsanjani is there. You have already cleared this issue of ranking and what have you. No. Wait, we are going to Rafsanjani. Okay. You will come back, you speak again, please, because he's been there for a while now. Because all these issues of processes, procedures, rules, regulations in this country, we've had all of that. Yet we keep having issues implementing them. Right, so to me, Nigeria, these things don't make sense to them, because the resultant effect. The resultant effect is that you people will go there and begin to behave like people who don't have rules, and people will even get away with it, and all that. Remember, in the Operation administration, we had more than between 6 and 7 senators, Senate presidents that served during that period, and we're talking about money. One of them was even accused of going to carry 50 million naira in his booth, and so on. And Nigerians are watching, and they know these things. So this issue of rules and all of that, for us, you have to be practicable before we begin to believe in that. That is why we are saying that what is happening currently is for the ruling party to put it out together to see how it can ensure that the rules and regulations are followed while electing officers. Meanwhile, when you talk about balancing, that the presidency should come in because of balancing and what have you. What is balance? For instance, in the present National Assembly, when the VP of the country is from the Southwest and the Speaker of the House of Representatives is from the Southwest, it never happened. It never happened before from 1979. That's always been balanced, but this one didn't balance. If you ask other person, that's to be their view. So now, what are the rules doing for us? Rafsanjani, let's bring you in once again. You may like to make reference to one or two things they said in connection with your earlier contribution with respect to issue of money exchanging hands in all of this. Please do come in again.
Thank you very much. I'm happy that Senator Ita is here. Since 1999, both as individual and the organizational level, I have been working with the various committees and the National Assembly as a whole to support the effective functioning of the legislature. Note there has not been any program that's whether local, regional, or international that we have not been able to support, that we have not been able to support the legislature to function effectively. And also we observe, and it is true, the honorable member is true that I'm ignorant on the chua that happens, and the change of exchange of hands and what have you, of money for the emergence of members. So it is true, I'm very ignorant about that because I'm not a member. Ours as civil society is to support the legislature to function according to our law and not to be part of, all those games. Yeah, okay, so I agree completely with him. But in terms of the, understanding and knowledge of the legislative function and what members should do, at least Senator Ita knows how much we have been working, to support the legislature. We are not anti-legislature. We want the legislature to function, to work effectively, because we believe that if we have a legislature that is working for the Nigerian people, you will be able to have the better dividend of democracy. But again, I just want us to be sincere and be honest, to completely rule out that, issues of material incentives is not part of what is being considered for, positioning in the National Assembly. That will just be a mockery for whoever that will do that, will make that kind of submission. Because even now, as I speak to you currently, this is also some of the thing that has been going on. And I'm saying that if we allow this commercialization to dominate or to take over the emergence of who should be our principal officers in the National Assembly, we may be losing, the quality that, is needed. It's been listed on the criteria of the people that we're supposed to have. But even within that context, you still have people who, for example, will be interested, and if they feel that they can use money or they can use other things to inspire or to get, especially the new voters, they would definitely do like it's been allegedly been done. So let us not dismiss, let us be honest and sincere that it is a problem. Even at the level of the emergence of the party primaries, you still see people using money. Even at the election level, you still see people using money. So, how can you completely dismiss the fact that this issue of money is not part of what is going on now in the assembly? I think that is not sincere, that is not honest, and that is not way to resolve those problems that we want to address in terms of emergence of our leaders in various positions in the country. Secondly, they also confirm how much influence governors have, in terms of making sure that, they support a particular candidate or the other. I'm not saying that as party members, you should not have interest. You should have interest. But a situation whereby governors will be giving directive to senators or to House of Rep on where they should go and vote, it's a problem. And since 1999, cannot even take decision unless they clear with their governors. I think we should not dismiss that. We are observers. We see what is going on, and we have friends and partners that also express frustration as members. And every day Nigerians are seeing things. So if you come here to color the scene and to make it that it's not a problem, Nigerians are seeing and are watching, and they will judge you based on that. Let me conclude by saying that even ordinary committee leadership, people pay money. People pay money. So let us be honest. Let us be sincere. I'm not saying that, other processes are not followed. They are followed, but then the issues of money cannot be completely removed. That's the point I'm trying to make. And that's what is happening. And it should not be the only determining factor for emergence of leaders that should be respected, that should command the leadership of the legislature. We should be able to look at competency, integrity, capacity, gender balance, and respect that you can command to preside over either at the Senate President or Deputy Senate President or Speaker or Deputy Speaker or any principal officer. I think we should also look at merit and see also how experiences can also help to rebuild leadership confidence and have a more strong and vibrant legislature in Nigeria. If we do that, we'll be able to strike the balance and have a balance, so that at any time, if the executive comes, at least you know that you have people of integrity, you have people who have the interest of the people, you have people at the leadership level that can be able to actually stand on the side of the people and also on the side of the right thing. Not just that somebody will be sitting somewhere as either governor giving directive to the state assembly members, or a president will be giving directive, and if you don't do that, it's like a rebellion to the governor or to the president. I think we need to change that mentality. We need to make sure that the legislature is independent. That is the only way we can actually guarantee vibrant democracy and be able to take the interest of the people who elected them. But if it is just to answer to be doing yes sir, we will not go anywhere, because the essence of having a legislature is to strike that balance, is to make sure that yes, there's need to have executive legislature working relationship, but you should not use your hand to undermine your own constitutional provision that empowers you to be able to checkmate the excesses of the executive and be able to ensure that all the laws and policies and program of government are complied with. As a legislator, it is your responsibility. But if you are able to moderate the whole thing, then you will no longer be any useful for the system and even for yourself. And that is why some members now, they will call for public hearing. Arrogant executive arm of government will not come because so many things have gone wrong. I think it is time now to ensure that we have leadership in the National Assembly that is actually focused, that is actually able to face the issues that they are elected for, not just simply to be pleasing the executive arm of government, which in any case, in return, they don't respect them, they don't value them. I think we need to make sure that the legislature is strong, is vibrant, so that it can actually perform its work, not just to be collapsed to as like an appendix of the executive. I think that's all that we are promoting. That's all we are advancing. We want to see the legislature equipped. We want to see the legislature be able to ask the appropriate question. And we want to also see the legislators also themselves render account by ensuring that effective constituency accountability happens. If we are able to do that, I believe Nigerians will hail the legislature. Nigerians will continue to give them support because they know that they are doing the work that they are elected to do, not to go and just be like a subservient to any arm of government. This is my just take on that, but it's just to say that we need to change the way things are happening. The emergence of leadership and the recruitment processes in Nigeria is faulty, and we need to change it, to make sure that we have leadership that can assert itself, that can actually be responsible in Nigeria at all levels.
All right, Rafsanjani, thank you very much there for your intervention, and the two former members of the National Assembly who are here with us in the studios. We're having to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Okay, I learned about the Jeep loan through Mrs. Umar, who is the desk officer in Calabar South of the National Orientation Agency. I registered through her. Thereafter, I was shortlisted. At first, when I heard about the program, I didn't believe it. I was thinking it was a scam because we've been hearing a thing of this, and it's been so rampant everywhere. But I was optimistic that it will come to reality. Before now, I was unable to own a stand. Before now, I was able to get few important ones, and that's been helping me to work, and at the same time make me own a stand where accessories are being sold. So I thank the federal government for the program.
Everywhere you go, from banks to hospitals to public offices, mass transit stations, airports, and even telecommunication centers, senior citizens are treated as nuisances. They are not. They are senior members of our society, and they deserve the utmost respect. We shouldn't be having our aged fathers and mothers standing in long queues to withdraw their monies at banks. Our retired senior citizens shouldn't be caught standing in buses for lack of seats or chasing after one just to get to their destination. Senior citizens shouldn't have to sit long hours in hospital corridors with no geriatric specialist to attend to them. Our senior citizens deserve better treatment from all of us. They deserve to be listened to. They are deserving of seat reservations on public buses and priority attendance in public spaces. As young people, we are quick to say, no one owes you. This is not true. We owe the elderly members of our society a helping hand, our services, and respect. Age-friendly societies have more senior citizens enjoying good health, living safely, and engaging in meaningful community work than those who do not. Dignifying age-friendly services for senior citizens.
All I need to say about the second River Niger Bridge, 21 years ago, as I came onto this throne, it will normally take you 3 to 4 hours to cross the bridge. I mean, if you are going to Lagos, you spent almost half your time on the bridge. And you were stuck on the bridge before you came across from Asaba this morning. Now, could you imagine how the people of Onitsha and Asaba have endured such a situation for over 25, 30 years? This is reality. We cannot overestimate the importance of the second River Niger Bridge. To express appreciation to our President, Muhammadu Buhari, for being the vehicle for the execution of this monumental project.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have been joined now by another guest. Is a serving member of the House of Representatives, Ogene Ima Ego. He represents Abubu Odofin Federal Constituency in Lagos State. Honorable Ego, we're glad to have you this morning. Of course, as a member of the People's Democratic Party. Before we bring you into the conversation, I want to come back to Honorable Shehu Hassan with respect to the processes and procedures, because ITANAC ticked off some critical factors, the need for balancing and the need, of course, to respect the formal structures of the party. But I earlier asked the question, so look, who ordinarily takes responsibility for this? I'm asking this against the backdrop of what at least some of us got to know during the Second Republic from 1979 to 1983. When you heard of the National Caucus of the MPN, you knew they were meeting. When you heard of the National Caucus of the NPP, of the UPN, or GMPP, you knew they were meeting. We didn't have this kind of razzmatazz, if you may, when NPP and NPN went into an alliance and Umezoke emerged Speaker of the House of Representatives. And you didn't have the same razzmatazz when Dr. Joseph Wise became Senate President. But now you have so many platforms, Governors Forum, Progressive Forum, the other one forum, the other. So who is in charge? They say they are following their governors. Are the governors also not ordinarily supposed to be part of the caucus where the party will coalesce and say, gentlemen, these are the issues, these are the things that we are working out. Why are we not having that? Against the backdrop also of the gale of suspensions and threats of suspension, even of principal officers of political parties.
Yes. Thank you for raising a very important question. First of all, let's put some context, some sort of context to the whole matter and bring some historical perspective, as you have rightly done. Let me address the issue of, first, let me do justice to Rafsanjani. You know, when I was saying, I carefully said, not ignorance, but lack of knowledge of what is happening. And clearly, he is right to say, but there are certain elements that democracy imposes on us. It is presumed that when the electorate goes for voting, every single member of the National assembly is expected to be a person of integrity, of responsibility, and came in legally. So anyone that is elected from among themselves is expected and presumed to have the credibility. If a constituency fails or an elected fails in its duty to bring or to produce people of credibility and brings people of questionable character, this is nobody's fault. It's not the fault of the legislature. It's the fault of the electorate. The responsibility and the onus falls to the electorate, who eventually and ultimately have the power anyway. And back to what I was saying, I'm happy. The balancing that the distinguished senator was referring to is to balance the 6 positions of leadership to those 6 geopolitical zones, so that one has each of the zones. But nothing that has happened now or that will happen now that is unprecedented. For instance, Kingsley just said there was the president, Shehu Shagari, from Northwest, and then there was the speaker from Southeast, as well as the vice president from the Southeast. You know why there was no rancor? Because then there was no politics because we didn't have demagogues. Demagogues are those who fan the flames of division, who play on our fault lines, who pray, who feed on those fault lines, our religious divide, our ethnic divide, which do not have place constitutionally, traditionally, and even legally in our politics. They don't. They are not a determinant of who becomes what. And I'm happy you brought it. And that's why everybody was happy when Femi Gbajabiamila not only came from the Southwest, the same state with the vice president, the same zone, but also came from the same state. Nobody, there was no rancor, as it were. And let me also remind you, in 2007, when Ete was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, retired General David Mark was the Senate President. Ekwere Madu was the Deputy Senate President. 4 of them were all Christians. Nobody raised an eyebrow. Because then there was this politics of demagoguery was not as deep as it is now. One of the elements that democracy imposes on us, Kieran, yes, just for a second, is to play by the rules of the game. That is the rule, first of all, the emergence of leadership, as I said earlier on, of the executive is quite different from the legislature. 2 things are very, very key and fundamental. 1, the emergence must be legal. 2, the emergence must have political consideration and consequences. Because that is why Shehu Shagari, when he was picking his vice president and speaker, he picked someone from the Southeast because he had an alliance with the Southeast, because there was a person of strong character who is the presidential candidate from the Southwest. So picking a Southwestern vice president would have been an exercise in futility. Someone of strong character, as Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Shagari had no chance, but he had an alliance. Nobody said anything. Okay. And that's why I am saying now, 2 things are very, very important. The emergence of, particularly, the Senate President is very, very important. I have a preferred kind of zoning as a member of the APC if I was called today to advise, and I'm sure it's something that people shy from. I have been in politics a greater part of my life for over 40 years. I'm in my late 50s. I've been involved from young age. And I'm expected to speak.
I hope you were not voting before you turned 18.
No, I wasn't voting, but I was involved because my father was a politician of repute. And I hope, and I know Nigerians, as I am now, I am expected to speak with nothing less than candor. And I want to say one thing, that political consideration must be key. Legal first.
Okay, Shehu Salah Hassan, I will pause you there. I will pause you there because we have a new guest who just joined us.
Exactly.
My concern mainly, is not all this balancing we're talking about. The rule of law is not usually followed. That's just basically the problem. Yes, but again, let's move away from that and bring in Honorable Ogene Emaego, Member House of Reps, Lagos State. Now, you've listened to part of our conversation before you came in here, and your colleagues, here mentioned ranking as a key factor, in selecting who would lead the two houses, the National Assembly. Then others, Franjani was talking about merit. We also talked about capacity, integrity, and what have you. And Shehu Hassan said that, look, that he blames the electorate for bringing in someone who does not have integrity at the National Assembly. But when you have no choice as an electorate, what do? There are two persons who are vying for a position, and of course you have no choice than to vote for one of them. And if one doesn't have that integrity, you don't have to blame the electorate. What is important is this, that when you get to the National Assembly and they want to make choices of who leads you now need to investigate and they get to deal with the integrity issue. That was,
I agree.
Exactly. That was why I recall I mentioned it earlier.
I agree.
And the Obasanjo administration has several Senate presidents and what have you. So accused of corruption and what have you. Now, let's bring in Ego here. What is your take on the current jostling of positions at the National Assembly?
Thank you very much. I think that the first and the most important thing is that someone must be ranking to be a Speaker of the House. Because to be a Speaker of the House, it takes a lot of responsibility. It's like being a mini president of the country. And that's why you see that the battle is very fierce, because you control the 360 members who come from different constituencies in the country. You control appropriation, which is the budget of the nation. You control making of laws. You determine who is to speak, who is not to speak, motions, and things that affect the nation. So you need somebody experienced. And for you to have the ranking, I think you should be on your 10th tenure, minimum 10th tenure, to become the Speaker. Otherwise, I don't think you have the experience. That is one. The second thing is that many things are going to play a role, play a role in the selection of a Speaker or Senate President. But the most important thing is members of the National Assembly themselves, because the members of the National Assembly that will vote, whether they are the ruling party or they are the opposition or they are minority party, is member of the party that will vote. So whoever wants to be Speaker have to buy the minds of those people. But I know there are some other extraneous issues that will play outside that. Some of it is the zoning that the party may carry out. But from what we have now seen in the 10th Assembly, in the 8th Assembly, to the 10th Assembly, people don't respect the zoning. For instance, Dogola was not the preferred candidate of the APC, defeated Gbajabiamila Amina in the 8th Assembly, against the zoning and the decision of the party. As you saw in the Senate, it also happened to Saraki, also defeated the person that the party wanted. So, zoning plays a part, but it's not the most important thing. It is the quality of the candidate himself who must be ranking and what he's been able to do to help members. Some of the candidates have helped members a lot. And a lot of members will swear that, this man has been good to me, is the one I will vote for. But of course, there are new members who have just come in, who don't know them. And so, some of them will want to be used financially, which is not the right thing to do. But all this simply a role, no matter how much we hide to say it. But I think that is members of that, those who are elected, that will play the role. For instance, in the House of Rep, there are so many people jostling for this speakership. But maybe about 3 candidates stand out, and the time is still far. More candidates will try to work hard to fall into the minds of this. But I think we need a candidate that is experienced, because when you are Speaker, laws can come that a certain section of the country will not like. It will affect them badly. It may favor another section of the country. If you are a Speaker, you say, it favors my section, let me undo the other section. You are creating problem in the country and also creating problem for the president. So we need somebody who is experienced, who understands the country, who understands balancing. We don't need people who will say, hey, I'm from here, therefore we want to dominate, So like my colleague have said, there have been times that, from the same zone, you've had the president, you've had the speaker coming from there, but there have been also times when it has been well apportioned But I think the best thing is to ensure that the political zones are taken into consideration in the choice of the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the Speaker, and Deputy Speaker. And as you can see, religion is becoming a major thing, you know, not because people wanted it, but because of the way the presidency worked. And no matter what we say, it is there. So when it's being done, there's need for also a religious balancing, because it's a sensitive thing in the area. Now, there are some people for certain religion, when it favors them, they say, oh, we don't need religious balancing. But when it affects them, they will cry for religious balancing. So I'm really sure all this must be taken care of. But as it is, it's difficult at the moment to know who is going to win, because the race is fierce. Candidates are justly, they are moving around the country, talking to governors to encourage people who won in the area to vote for the candidate, talking for party leaders who are outside the National Assembly.
But, sorry, I'm not cutting you short. Do you think that these positions are currently being commercialized?
Well, no, I don't think they are being commercialized. They are not being commercialized, because if you say they are being commercialized, it shows that money is just the only factor. But you see, in anything, anybody who wants any position as it is in Nigeria, you tend to show appreciation. It's the nation of the country. You are from Nigeria. All of us contested election at primary. In the primary, money played a role. When you go to the major election, money played a role. You have to finance your election, finance your campaign. Now, Nigeria have not got into institutions like America or Britain, where they just look at what you have done, your performance alone, and people pay. People are hungry in this country. And people will tell you, look, I'm owing Debbie, you want me to work for you, you want me to vote for you, please give me this. Even as I speak to you, people call every day to say, myself and my children, we have not eaten today. You have a rep, please find something for us. You know, so that is the level where we are now.
Okay,
but it's not outright commercialization.
Honorable Ogene Ego, thank you very much for your intervention. But you've talked about some of the critical factors that will play out. But again, if you look ahead in the next 2 months, what is likely to happen? Because there are reports already of the minority parties attempting to coalesce and perhaps sucking some dissident members of the majority party. I know that Senator Etta and I go running away from that word, but I want to say dissident because assuming some of these factors that you have ticked off are not respected by the majority party, and members of the majority party, they say, look, no, this is against the grain. So we form dissidents, particularly as the voting is by secret ballot. So what is happening? Are the minority parties believing that they are in the minority and probably just not relevant, or that they think that they can coalesce and then also be a factor to be reckoned with in the choice of principal officers? Let
me say this. The minority parties, as the new positions being contested, that is those positions that were postponed as results are coming, the minority parties will have a slight edge, 1 or 2 above the majority party, the leading party. But the minority parties will be making a mistake if they think they can pick one of themselves to become the speaker. From my experience, what the minority party could probably do is to say, hey, the ruling party has picked so person. We will not support that person. We will support another person in the ruling party. So that when that person wins, it takes care of us. Don't forget that they are using positions. You know, they are using positions, chairman of big committees. And so many people from the minority parties want to be able to control some of those positions.
I know.
And if you are in the majority party, you are not ready, you say, oh, your party has picked you. You are not ready to share some of this position with some of major people in the minority parties. You are about to lose. So I think that what the minority parties are going to do that will favor them will be to come together and look at the candidates who are front runners. There are very few front runners. There's a pack of them. When you get National Assembly, you see everybody wants to be speaker. And you ask yourself, has it become a joke? But there are very few of them who people know are standing candidates.
Okay, all right, sir. We will pause you here. Sorry, we're running out of time. My colleague Kingsley normally makes a jest of me when I define politics to mean authoritative distribution of scarce resources. Now, I'll give you another one. Who gets what, when, and how? That is exactly what is happening now at the National Assembly.
That's right, Harold, last word.
Exactly. I mean, he's a political scientist. Both of you, we have no time now, so
may I
will come in.
just
yes.
put more flesh on what I had said previously on the issue of balancing. The balancing, while I, to some extent, I agree with my dear colleague here, my brother here, it's not possible that you will have, it's impossible. Nigeria is not wired that way. It's impossible that you will have an ethnic balancing in these powers. It's impossible that you will have religious balancing in these powers.
But
no, let me finish. Let me finish.
Even if it doesn't work,
no, let me
to
finish.
do it.
You see, there are certain elements I have said earlier and there are certain occurrences that will continue to happen in Nigeria. They will be part of our political culture, and we must learn to really be comfortable with them, even if we do not like them.
If you don't, I haven't even changed it. I haven't even elucidated them. Let him come in. That's no time.
Just 1 second. Say that.
That's
just
no
1
time.
second.
We have not the time.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I told you that in the emergence of, for my party, for the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly, particularly that of the Senate President and the Speaker, two factors must play. One, it must be legal. It must be among a ranking senator. Two, political consideration. Where the most votes come from.
Thank you.
So that we do not make miscalculation.
Please just come in here. Just round out. So rounding off.
I'm a little depressed because from part of the discussion that is going on here, it's like it is confirmed that there is a little bit of commercialization of the process. And I didn't think that Nigeria and the legislature would be would get to this level.
True.
But I pray that it's just a suspicion that it doesn't really happen. because I was thinking, in our tenure and throughout, we didn't see money playing role. Causing somebody to vote. But I want to pray. I want to say that I hope the
if you don't sign off now, we have responsible.
In summary, I want to say that the APC, the governors, and all this the party and the president-elect and his team should come up early and zone the offices to the respective areas. And of course, after that, it should hold dinner and interactives with the members. It will not ask instruction and they obey.
All right, former senior special advisor
into their heart. Because if you don't, if you think that it's zone and it works,
we are sorry about this, but we have no time.
Thank you very much.
No time. And the program
Warm yourself
almost in the first minute. Sorry.
Very interesting conversation.
Yes,
Something
Dr.
we'll have to return to.
Itai Enang, former senior special advisor to the President of National Assembly Matters. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll bring you back again because this matter has not ended. We'll continue with that. But for time, we're packing up our bags and baggage this morning. Now, Honorable Shehu Saleh Hassan, member of the House of Representatives, of course, he's a strong man from Basa, just North Central Constituency. Well, he was there 23 to 27. We're glad having him this morning.
It's a pleasure.
All right. And, of course, the man that came just a few minutes ago, we will thank you for making it after all. Honorable Ogene Emayego, member House of Reps, Lagos State. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning.
Thank you.
And, of course, the only voice that differed this conversation, which I personally also enjoyed, our Musa Rafsanjani, Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. CISLAC. Thank you once again for your contribution.
So, that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. As always, we appreciate your tuning in. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadogo.
And I am Kirian. I do have a great day. See you again tomorrow.
is